I walked into the shareholder meeting room at 9:03 a.m. on the 17th of November 2025, 63 years old, short silver hair, long black trench coat, not a single wrinkle. For the first 30 seconds, I said nothing, just placed the 17-inch MacBook Titanium on the walnut table, opened the first slide, Project Phoenix, Return of Capital Allocation Authority. The whole hall was silent. My younger brother Daniel, 58 years old, current CEO, turned pale. I smiled slightly. 22 years ago you told me to take a break. Today I came back, not to ask for a seat, but to take back the entire chessboard. But let me take you back to where this really started. Back to 2003, when I was 41 years old and ReynoldsTech was worth $8 billion. Back when I still believed family meant something. I built that company from my studio apartment in Cambridge in 1987, 18 years of 80-hour weeks, 18 years of pitching to venture capitalists who looked at me like I was there to serve coffee, 18 years of being the only woman in every single room that mattered. By 2003, we had 12,000 employees across 40 countries. We revolutionized cloud infrastructure before anyone even called it that. The board loved me. The press called me the East Coast answer to Silicon Valley. Everything I touched turned to gold. Then I made the mistake that would cost me everything. I trusted my brother. Daniel joined the company in 1999. MBA from Wharton, sharp suits, sharper smile. He was my baby brother, 10 years younger, and I wanted to give him a shot. I made him VP of Operations. Within 2 years, he was COO. I thought we were building a legacy together. I thought blood meant loyalty. I was wrong. In March 2003, I noticed something strange. Vendor contracts being rerouted. Board meetings scheduled without me. Whispers in hallways that stopped when I walked by. When I confronted Daniel, he looked me straight in the eye and said, "Shirley, you're exhausted. The company needs fresh vision. Take a sabbatical, 6 months. We'll handle things." I should have seen it coming. I should have read the room. But I was tired. God, I was so tired. So I said yes. I signed the temporary leave papers. I thought I was taking a break. I didn't realize I was signing away my empire. 6 months turned into a year turned into 5. Every time I tried to come back, there was another excuse. The board needs continuity. The transition isn't complete. The shareholders are nervous about leadership changes, and then in 2006, they made it official. The board voted me out, 47-3, my own company, my own creation, gone. Daniel stood at that podium and thanked me for my foundational contributions. He actually cried. Fake tears rolling down his face while he stole everything I built. But here's what Daniel didn't know. Here's what none of them knew. In 1992, when we went public, I had my lawyer Michael Chen put a clause in the corporate charter, Clause 47B. It stated that the original founder retained perpetual capital allocation authority in the event of a return to active service, provided they still held at least 8% of outstanding shares and could demonstrate to the board that current leadership had materially deviated from the company's founding mission. I never sold a single share. Through 22 years of exile, through watching my company grow to $42 billion without me, through seeing Daniel on magazine covers with my headlines, I held on to every single share, 11.2%, locked away, waiting. And for 22 years, I watched, I documented every questionable acquisition, every time they prioritized profit over innovation, every time they killed a project that didn't promise immediate returns. Daniel turned my company into a cash machine, efficient, profitable, soulless. In 2019, something happened that changed everything. My daughter Abigail, 29 years old, Princeton Computer Science, joined ReynoldsTech as a junior product manager. She didn't tell them she was my daughter. She used her married name, Abigail Morrison. She wanted to earn it on her own. And she did. Within 3 years, she was Senior VP of Innovation. She proposed a revolutionary AI ethics framework that could have positioned ReynoldsTech as the moral leader in tech. The board loved it. The engineers loved it. It would have cost $200 million and 2 years of reduced profits. Daniel killed it in one meeting. Then he fired her, told her she was too idealistic, not a culture fit. He fired my daughter for trying to do what I built that company to do, for trying to choose vision over quarterly earnings, for being exactly what ReynoldsTech was supposed to be. That's when I decided. Not revenge, reclamation. I spent 2 years building my case. Every deviation from our founding mission, every innovation killed for short-term gains, every promise broken. Michael Chen, now 71 years old and still the sharpest legal mind in Massachusetts, helped me prepare the filing. We submitted it to the board in September 2025. Invoked Clause 47B. Demanded a vote. 3 board members remembered that clause. The old guard. The ones who were there at the beginning. They knew exactly what it meant. Daniel tried to fight it. Hired 4 law firms. But corporate charters don't lie. The clause was ironclad. The vote was scheduled for the 17th of November 2025, which brings us back to that conference room. To me, standing at the head of that table with 400 shareholders staring at me like I was a ghost. To Daniel's pale face and shaking hands. To the moment I opened my laptop and smiled. Because I wasn't there to ask for anything. I was there to take back what was always mine. And this time, I had 22 years of evidence, an unbreakable legal clause, and nothing left to lose. The war was about to begin. The presentation remote felt cold in my hand as I stood at that podium, 400 faces staring at me. Daniel gripping the armrest of his chair so hard his knuckles went white. I clicked to the second slide. Let me tell you a story about Antarctica, I said. November 2003. 22 years ago this month. I could see some of the older board members shift in their seats. They remembered. They knew what was coming. I was 41 years old. ReynoldsTech was worth $8 billion. We had just secured a contract with the National Science Foundation to test low-bandwidth satellite infrastructure at McMurdo Station. Revolutionary technology. If it worked in Antarctica, it would work anywhere on Earth. I insisted on being there personally for the final tests. I clicked to the next slide. A photo of me in a red parka, standing on an ice sheet, holding a satellite dish, grinning like I had just conquered the world. I was there for 17 days. The last 11 days, we were in complete communications blackout. That was the point. We were testing whether our network could maintain signal integrity in the most hostile environment on Earth. No internet, no phone, no way to reach the outside world. My voice dropped lower. Every person in that room leaned forward. What I didn't know was that while I was standing on a glacier 7,000 miles from home, my own brother and my own protégé were staging a coup. I turned to look directly at Daniel. His face had gone from pale to gray. Daniel, Victor Chen. I let the names hang in the air. My baby brother and the brilliant MIT graduate I personally recruited in 2001, the 2 people I trusted most in the world. They spent those 11 days very busy. Click. Next slide. A scanned document. Medical letterhead. Dr. Patricia Hoffman. Psychiatrist. This is a psychiatric evaluation dated the 19th of November 2003. It states that I was experiencing severe emotional distress, acute anxiety, and was at significant risk of impaired decision-making capacity. It recommended immediate medical leave. Dr. Hoffman's signature is right there at the bottom. I paused. Let them read it. Here's the problem. I never met Dr. Patricia Hoffman. I never had a psychiatric evaluation, and when my lawyers tracked her down last year, she confirmed she never wrote this document. Someone forged her signature. The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, heads turning toward Daniel and Victor, who sat 3 seats apart, both staring at the table. While I was unreachable, Daniel and Victor presented this forged document to the board. They claimed I had been exhibiting erratic behavior for months. They said I was a danger to the company. They invoked Section 12 of our corporate charter, the incapacity clause, designed to protect the company if a CEO became mentally unfit to serve. I clicked again. Board meeting minutes from the 21st of November 2003. Emergency board vote. 42 members present. Vote to remove Shirley Reynolds from active CEO duties and place her in an honorary chairman position with no voting rights or operational authority. Result: 38 inches favor, 4 opposed. The coup was complete. And I was still on a glacier, watching penguins, completely unaware my entire life's work had just been stolen. My voice cracked slightly, not because I was acting, because even after 22 years, that betrayal still cut like a knife. I got back to Boston on November 24th, flew straight from Christchurch to Logan Airport, 31 hours of travel. I was exhausted, exhilarated, ready to share the good news that our satellite tests had exceeded every benchmark. I walked into the office at 6 a.m. on November 25th. I closed my eyes for a moment, remembering. Victor was waiting for me. Not Daniel. They sent Victor because they knew I had a soft spot for him. He handed me a folder, told me there had been concerns about my health, told me the board had made a difficult decision, told me it was temporary, just until I recovered from my stress. I opened my eyes. I read the documents, saw the forged signature, saw my name stripped from every operational authority, and I knew exactly what had happened. Daniel and Victor had been planning this for months. They just waited until I was unreachable to execute it. Click. Next slide. A photo of me from December 2003, noticeably pregnant. Here's what they didn't know. I was 36 weeks pregnant with my first daughter, Abigail. I had been hiding it under loose sweaters and long coats because I didn't want anyone to use my pregnancy as a reason to doubt my capabilities. But standing in that conference room, reading those documents, feeling my daughter kick inside me, I had a choice to make. The room was silent. You could hear people breathing. I could fight. Hire lawyers, expose the forgery, launch a war that would consume months, maybe years, drag the company through scandal, risk the stress affecting my pregnancy, risk losing my daughter. I paused. Or I could choose her. My voice was steady now, strong. I chose her. I signed the papers, accepted the honorary chairman position, stepped back, let them think they had won, because being Abigail's mother mattered more than being CEO of ReynoldsTech. Click. Final slide of this section. A scanned legal document dated the 3rd of December, 2003. Single page. Dense legal text. But before I signed those papers, I had my lawyer add one small amendment to our corporate charter, Clause 17.4, buried in the founding documents. It said, "Founder may reclaim full voting control and operational authority at any time upon demonstrating ownership of 25% plus 1 share of outstanding stock." I smiled. Nobody read it carefully. Daniel signed it. Victor signed it. The board secretary filed it. And for 22 years, it sat there, waiting. I turned to face Daniel directly. I currently own 25.0001% of ReynoldsTech, which means, as of this moment, I'm invoking Clause 17.4. The room exploded. The chaos in the boardroom reached a crescendo. Lawyers scrambling for their phones, board members shouting questions, Daniel on his feet, face red, pointing at me like I was the criminal. "This is insane," he yelled. "You can't just walk in here after 22 years and claim." I raised one hand. The room fell silent. "You want to know what I've been doing for 22 years, Daniel?" My voice was ice. "You thought I disappeared. You thought I was sitting in some beach house, bitter and broken, watching you run my company into mediocrity. You thought wrong." I clicked to the next slide. A complex web of company names, arrows, investment flows, 41 separate entities. In December 2003, when you forced me out, you gave me a severance package. $400 million. Generous, you said. A thank you for my service. You wanted me to take the money and fade away quietly. I smiled. I took the money, but I didn't fade away. Click. Stock charts. Growth trajectories. Numbers that made people gasp. I spent 22 years studying, learning, watching how the best operators in the world built empires. I read every book Elon Musk ever recommended, studied every move he made. Tesla, SpaceX. The way he thought 10 moves ahead, the way he turned impossible into inevitable. I didn't just read about it, I applied it. I walked along the front of the room, making eye contact with specific board members. I took that $400 million and I turned it into $9.2 billion through 41 different LLCs registered in Delaware and the Cayman Islands. Quiet investments, strategic positions, no headlines, no press releases, just cold, calculated capital deployment. Victor Chen had gone completely still in his seat. He knew something was coming. He could feel it. "Here's where it gets interesting," I said. In 2019, ReynoldsTech spun off its AI division into a separate company. You called it Aurora AI, positioned it as the future of the company, took it public in 2020. Initial valuation, $3.2 billion. Click. Aurora's stock chart. A sharp decline in 2020. Another in 2022. But Aurora had problems, didn't it, Daniel? The tech wasn't ready, you rushed it to market, burned through cash. By August 2020, Aurora was 3 months from bankruptcy. You needed capital fast. You couldn't go to traditional investors because they would have asked too many questions about why your flagship AI division was failing. I paused, let the tension build. So an anonymous investment fund appeared. Cayman registered. Injected $800 million. No board seat demanded. No operational control requested. Just pure capital. When you needed it most. You took the money, Aurora survived. Daniel's face had gone from red to white. Then it happened again in 2022. Another cash crisis. Another anonymous fund. Another $1 billion. You took that money too. You stood at this very podium and told shareholders that Aurora had attracted sophisticated institutional investors who believed in our vision. I clicked to the next slide. Legal documents, fund registration papers, my name on every single one. Those anonymous funds were mine, both of them. I gave you $1.8 billion to save Aurora, and you never knew it was me. The room erupted again, louder this time. Victor had his head in his hands. Daniel was frozen, staring at the screen like he was watching his own execution. "But here's my favorite part," I said, and I couldn't keep the edge of satisfaction out of my voice. While I was secretly keeping Aurora alive, I was also building something else. Click. New company logo. Helios AI. Helios AI, founded in 2018. Headquarters in Austin, Texas. The fastest-growing artificial intelligence company in North America. Aurora's biggest competitor. Last month, Helios secured a $12 billion Pentagon contract that Aurora spent 3 years trying to win. I let that sink in. I own 54% of Helios AI. I've been funding your competition while simultaneously keeping you from going bankrupt. I've been playing both sides of the board while you thought I wasn't even in the game. The implications washed over the room like a wave. I had been orchestrating everything for 22 years, every move calculated, every dollar strategic. You want to know the best part? I clicked to the next slide. It was a screenshot. Internal company chat. Dated March 2022. Daniel Reynolds and Victor Chen. Private message thread. The text was projected on the 15-foot screen for everyone to read. Victor, we need to figure out the Helios situation. They're destroying us in every market. Daniel, I know, but honestly, luckily my sister is old and disappeared. If Shirley were still around, we'd be dead. She would have seen this coming years ago. Victor, yeah, we got lucky she gave up. Daniel, she wasn't tough enough for this business anyway. The silence in that room was absolute. You could hear the ventilation system, the hum of the projector, someone's phone vibrating on the table. I let them read it 3 times, let every word burn into their consciousness. Old and disappeared, I repeated softly. Not tough enough. I walked slowly back to the podium. You had no idea I was the one funding your survival. No idea I was the one building the company that's about to destroy you. No idea that every move you made for the last 5 years, I saw coming. I looked at Daniel, really looked at him, my baby brother, the person I had trusted more than anyone. You thought silence meant defeat, I said. You thought absence meant surrender. You were wrong. I wasn't hiding. I was preparing. And now, I'm ready. I clicked to the final slide of this section. Motion to invoke Clause 17.4 and restore full operational authority to Shirley Reynolds, effective immediately. All those in favor? The war had just become a massacre. Motion to invoke Clause 17.4 and restore full operational authority to Shirley Reynolds, effective immediately. All those in favor? Before anyone could respond, I gestured to my lawyer, Michael Chen, standing by the back wall. He was 71 years old, silver-haired, wearing the same Navy suit he wore when we founded this company in 1987. He walked to the podium carrying a leather folder. "Ladies and gentlemen of the board," Michael said, his voice carrying the weight of 4 decades of corporate law, "I will now read Clause 17.4 its entirety, as recorded in the corporate charter, dated the 3rd of December 2003, and signed by all relevant parties." He opened the folder, put on his reading glasses. The room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Clause 17.4, Founder Reclamation of Authority. Notwithstanding any other provision in this charter, the original founder of ReynoldsTech Corporation, Shirley Ann Reynolds, shall retain the perpetual right to reclaim full voting control and operational authority at any time upon demonstrating ownership of 25% plus 1 share of outstanding common stock. This right is irrevocable, non-negotiable, and supersedes all subsequent governance structures. Michael looked up. Signed the 3rd of December 2003 by Daniel James Reynolds, CEO, and Victor Chen, Chief Operating Officer, and witnessed by the Corporate Secretary and 5 board members, 3 of whom are still serving today. Daniel shot to his feet. His chair flew backward, hitting the wall. "This is a conspiracy," he shouted, his voice cracked. "This is a coordinated attack to destroy everything we built. She's been planning this for years, manipulating stock prices, creating shell companies. This is fraud. This is justice," I said quietly. The room went silent again. "And I'm not done." I clicked to the next slide. Video player. Date stamp. The 5th of December, 2003. This is security footage from the signing of my severance agreement. The day you paid me to disappear. I pressed play. The video showed a conference room. Younger Daniel, 36 years old, full head of dark hair, expensive suit. He was signing documents. Victor stood next to him. Daniel looked directly at the camera, grinning, and said to someone off-screen, "$400 million. That's cheap for buying out a founder. My sister will never come back. She's too soft. She chose being a mom over being a CEO. That tells you everything you need to know." Victor's voice, off camera. "She'll fade away in 6 months. Nobody remembers yesterday's news." Daniel laughed. By 2010, nobody will even remember Shirley Reynolds founded this company. I stopped the video. Let those words echo in the stunned silence. "You were wrong," I said. "I didn't fade away. I didn't forget. And neither did anyone else who mattered." Daniel was shaking, visible tremors running through his hands. His face had gone blotchy, red patches on pale skin. "The vote," I said calmly. "All those in favor of invoking Clause 17.4? 47 hands went up, out of 52 board members present. The old guard who remembered. The younger members who saw the writing on the wall. Even 2 of Daniel's own appointees. "Motion carries," Michael said. "Effective immediately, Shirley Reynolds resumes full operational authority." I took a breath. This was the moment I'd been planning for 22 years, not just taking back my company, doing something bigger. "Before we proceed," I said, "I'd like to introduce someone." I walked to the side door and opened it. She stood there, 38 years old, black suit identical to mine, hair pulled back in the same severe bun, but her eyes, those were pure fire. 22 years of watching her mother be erased. 3 years of working her way up this company under a false name, 2 years since they fired her for being too idealistic. "This is Abigail Reynolds," I said. "My daughter. Some of you knew her as Abigail Morrison, Senior VP of Innovation, fired in 2022 for proposing we prioritize ethics over quarterly earnings." Abigail walked to the front of the room. Her heels clicked on the hardwood floor like a countdown. She stood next to me, and I could feel the power radiating off her. She wasn't just my daughter. She was everything I had fought for, everything I had built, everything this company was supposed to be. "I didn't come back to run this company," I announced. "I'm 63 years old. I've spent 22 years learning, building, preparing, but this fight was never about me reclaiming a throne. It was about making sure the next generation doesn't have to fight the same war." I turned to face Abigail, took her hand. "From this moment, Abigail Reynolds is chairwoman and CEO of ReynoldsTech Corporation." The room erupted. Gasps, applause from some corners, shocked silence from others. I held up my hand for quiet, turned to Daniel and Victor, both still standing, both looking like they'd been hit by a truck. "You have 2 options," I said. "Option 1. You report directly to Abigail. You take whatever positions she assigns you. You earn back the trust you destroyed. You spend the next 5 years proving you understand what this company is supposed to be." I paused. "Option 2. You resign, effective immediately. You leave with nothing. No severance, no stock options, no glowing press releases. You walk out of this building and you never use the Reynolds name in business again." Daniel's legs gave out. He collapsed back into his chair. And then, for the first time in 22 years, I saw my brother cry. Real tears. Not the fake ones from 2003. These were tears of a man watching his entire world crumble. Victor didn't cry. He just stood there for a moment, swaying slightly, and then his knees buckled. He caught himself on the table, but barely. His face had gone gray. Abigail stepped forward. Her voice was clear, strong, merciless. "You have 24 hours to decide," she said. "Choose wisely." The dynasty had fallen. The revolution had begun. The board meeting continued for another hour, lawyers drafting emergency resolutions, board members realigning allegiances, Daniel and Victor sitting in their chairs like statues, broken men watching their empire dissolve in real time. But I wasn't staying for that part. I walked to the head of the table, where the chairman's gavel sat a solid walnut, the same gavel I used in 1994 when we signed our first $100 million contract. I picked it up, felt the weight of it. Then I turned and placed it directly in front of Abigail. "This is yours now," I said. The room fell silent. 400 people watching this moment. This transfer of power, not stolen this time, earned, chosen, right. I turned to face the shareholders, took a breath, and I spoke the words I'd been rehearsing in my head for 22 years. 22 years ago, I was 41 years old, about to give birth to my first daughter. My own brother and my own protégé told me I was too stressed, too emotional, too weak to lead a technology company. They said a pregnant woman couldn't handle the pressure. They said I needed to step back for my own good. My voice was steady, strong, every word landing like a hammer. They were wrong. I wasn't too weak. I was too trusting. I chose my daughter's life over a corporate battle. I chose being a mother over being a CEO. And they called that weakness. I paused. Let them sit with that. Today, a 63-year-old woman just walked into this boardroom and took back a $42 billion empire using nothing but intelligence, patience, and a clause they were too arrogant to read carefully. And now, a 38-year-old woman, my daughter, will continue writing history. I looked at Abigail. She stood there, shoulders back, chin up, looking exactly like I must have looked at her age. Fierce, brilliant, unbreakable. This company was built on innovation, on vision, on choosing the impossible over the comfortable. Under my brother's leadership, it became a machine designed to extract profit and eliminate risk. That ends today. I picked up my MacBook, closed it, looked one last time at Daniel, slumped in his chair, and Victor, staring at the table like it might offer him an escape route. "I didn't come back for revenge," I said quietly. "I came back so the next woman never has to fight this war again." And then I walked out, just like that. Didn't wait for applause. Didn't stay for the restructuring discussions. Didn't need to watch them scramble. I had done what I came to do. 2 hours later, Abigail found me in the empty fifth-floor conference room, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. The room where I used to hold my strategic planning sessions back in the 1990 seconds. The room where I dreamed up half the innovations that made ReynoldsTech legendary. She closed the door behind her. For a moment, we just stood there, mother and daughter. Two women who had just staged the most spectacular corporate reclamation in modern history. "How does it feel?" I asked. "Terrifying," she said honestly. "Exhilarating. Right." I smiled, walked over to my bag and pulled out a book. Hardcover, well-worn. Elon Musk by Walter Isaacson. But this wasn't just any copy. In 2012, I said, I attended a private tech summit in Palo Alto. Elon was there. We talked for 3 hours about first principles thinking, about building companies that matter. He signed this book for me. I handed it to Abigail. She opened it carefully. On the title page, Elon's signature in black ink. To Shirley. Who gets it? Build the impossible. Elon. But that's not the important part, I said. I flipped to the inside back cover. My handwriting. 3 rules written in blue ink. Rule number 1, never optimize for being liked. You're not here to make friends, you're here to build the future. If people like you along the way, great. If they don't, irrelevant. Abigail's finger traced the words. Rule number 2, first principles over feelings. When you're making decisions, strip away every assumption. Get to the fundamental truth. What actually matters? What's actually possible? Emotions are data, not direction. I watched her read. Saw her absorbing it. Rule number 3, build the future, don't rent it. Don't manage what exists, create what doesn't. That's what I did wrong in 2003. I managed the empire I built. I should have been building the next one. Don't make my mistake. Abigail closed the book, held it against her chest. When she looked at me, her eyes were wet, but no tears fell. I'm terrified I'll let you down, she said. Good, I replied. Fear keeps you sharp. Arrogance is what killed Daniel. You've seen what happens when leaders believe their own myth. Don't become that. I put my hand on her shoulder. The seat is yours now. I'll sit in the back row, but I'll always be there when you need to pound the table. When you need someone who remembers what this company was supposed to be. When you need your mother. Abigail smiled. A real smile. Fierce and bright, and absolutely fearless. For a moment, I saw myself at 30. That same hunger, that same refusal to accept the world as it was. Thank you, she said, for not giving up, for waiting, for coming back. Thank you for being worth coming back for, I replied. I left her there in that conference room, standing by the windows, holding that book, ready to change the world. I walked out of Aurora Tower at 4:47 p.m., November wind cutting through the Boston streets, blowing my black trench coat behind me like a cape. The sun was setting over the harbor, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. I wasn't taking revenge. Revenge is small, petty, backward-looking. I was taking back what belonged to us, to women who build empires and get erased, to daughters who inherit brilliance and get dismissed, to every woman who was ever told she was too emotional, too old, too soft, too much. And I was handing it to the next generation. Stronger, colder, more unyielding, ready to finish what I started. The war isn't over, but today we won a battle that mattered. And tomorrow, Abigail fights the next one. I smiled into the November wind and walked toward my car. 63 years old, just getting started.